So I want to take the time to go over some of these slides, and then I'm going to get you to do this activity on your own. Now, one of the mistakes I was noticing is that students were not moving the counters to make 10. Here we have 9 plus 4, and we have 9 white counters on the first 10 frame, and then 4 dark counters on the second 10 frame. To make 10, you have to move the counters from the second 10 frame to the first 10 frame. I don't want you to ever start here. I don't want you to start at the left. I need you to start at the right. So you keep moving those counters over. You have to actually move them until you make your first 10 frame full. Now you can clearly see that 9 plus 4 is the same as 10 plus 3. The other thing that I was noticing is that students were just scattering these counters throughout. I don't want that. I need you to make sure that your counters are always top to bottom, left to right. So when they are positioned like they are in rows, you would go top to bottom, left to right. Now, another thing that I was noticing, and this is actually a mistake I make all the time, when you're moving your counters, you want to actually be in the middle of that circle. When you see those blue squares, you want to do your best to avoid touching them, because what happens is it changes the shape, and that can be very frustrating. Now, here's a good tip for you, and you probably already know this. Whenever you make a mistake, and I make them all the time, I go to my undo button, which is this one right here. So you just click on it. The last thing we need to do for this slide is 9 plus 4, as we can clearly see, is 13. I want to also move on to one other slide, and that is the one that shows equal statements or equal equations and unequal equations. So we'll just keep on going until we get to that slide. And here it is. You have all done a tremendous job showing me how knowledgeable you are about equal equations. Now, this is something I always do for myself. To truly see if this side, the two numbers that we're adding on the left, is equal to the numbers that we're adding on the right, I actually add them. And I actually write down what that answer is. So 8 plus 7, and use whatever strategy works best for you. I often think in doubles. 8 plus 8 is 16, minus 1 is 15. Here, 10 plus 5. I find it very easy to count on from 10 is 15. So these two equations are equal to each other. And as you know, when they're equal, we use what is the equal sign, 2 straight lines. Now, when something is not equal, like in this example here, the two numbers that we're adding on the left do not equal the two numbers that we're adding on the right. 5 plus 6, again, I'm thinking in doubles, but you use whatever strategy works best for you. I'm thinking 5 plus 5 is 10 plus 1 is 11. And then 1 plus 8 equals 9. This side is not equal to this side, so that's when we use what's called an unequal sign. So it's 2 lines, but then a line through it. When it is your turn to complete these questions, I would like you to do this. I would like you to add what these two numbers equal, and you're going to type the answer here. Then you're going to add what these two numbers equal, type the answer here, and then you have to choose the right sign. If this, when these two numbers are added, equals what's on this side, you would obviously choose the equal sign. So you would bring it here and here. But if they're not equal, you would use what's called the unequal sign. So it goes here and then here. So just to review, when you're moving your counters, you need to actually move them. You need to make sure that what's left on the second 10 frame, you are always leaving those counters top to bottom, left to right. And then when you're determining if two equations are equal, you need to add them. And on this side, the two numbers that you're adding on the left side, and then the two numbers you're adding on the right side. If they were equal, if they're the same, then you would use the equal sign. But if they are not equal, if the two numbers that you're adding on the left, and the answer is not the same to the two numbers that you're adding on the right, you would use what is the unequal sign.